What a
So
nice
that is beautiful behind you.
Scotland.
Okay, so again, we have Dan Mackey and Brad Long joining us for a discussion tonight about incentive programs through Efficiency Vermont and Green Mountain Power. I'm going to briefly go over our agenda for the evening. We're going to start with Green Mountain Power, and we're going to discuss incentive programs offered and how Green Mountain Power is involved in energy efficiency. There'll be plenty of time for questions after each speaker. After Green Mountain Power, we're going to jump over to Efficiency Vermont, and we're going to discuss the incentive programs offered through them and talk about electric heating, heat pumps, and weatherization. At the end, after our speakers are done and after all the questions have been answered, we will go into just some updates from the BCRC, workshops and webinars, and then if anyone wanted to talk about anything else, there's time for another discussion. So let's go ahead and get started with Green Mountain Power.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Dan Mackey. I worked for Green Mountain Power a little over 30 years, in which my territory is basically Route 4 South, in which I do commercial and industrial visits, and which I've actually had the experience of working with a few folks on the call this evening, Bima and Jim Hand, in which I'm going to talk about our new programs, in which Bima probably could talk about it as well. And I'm also going to mention a little bit about Riley Rink, which I'm positive Jim could probably step in and talk about. And with that, before I start the presentation, some of the things that we're offering right now is some clean energy incentive money, which is to help folks reduce fossil fuel consumption, in which we can do that through various forms. And when I say that, you know, if it's a commercial entity and they have a rooftop air conditioner or a rooftop heating and air conditioning unit, and they're burning propane, if that thing is on its last legs, we can actually provide some pretty decent incentive in conjunction with Efficiency Vermont. And one of the things that you'll notice through probably my presentation as well as Brad's, we work very, very closely with Efficiency Vermont, in which sometimes I feel as though we are one team, even though we're two separate entities. And Brad, if you wanted to add anything to that, by all means, feel free.
The only thing I'll add to that is the state has three utilities. It has a gas utility, an electric utility, and an efficiency utility. And all three of the utilities have been working together in concert for the past couple of years to try to help Vermonters reduce their bottom line when it comes to energy costs. Yeah, I'll elaborate a little bit here. Dan and I worked together closely in Rutland last year. We were successful bringing a couple of projects to the table and helping a lot of Rutlanders experience a higher quality of life at a lesser cost. So I don't want to take up any more than that, but thank you, Dan, for the nod there.
No problem. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you will all be able to see the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, can everyone see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes, nicely, thanks.
I don't know if everyone's was signed by a few years ago, which that actually generated the platform for a lot of the energy transformation that Green Mountain Power is working through today, and a lot of the incentives, and which Act 56 basically was getting Vermont to be 95% fossil fuel free by the year 2050. So we actually have some pretty steep goals in which the state didn't make us as individuals responsible for reducing carbon emissions and fossil fuel consumption. It actually made the utilities. And that's one of the goals and targets from not only Green Mountain Power, but Efficiency Vermont, as well as all the utilities in the state of Vermont to reduce carbon. And, you know, a quick look at GMP and what we're all about. We cover a large area, cover a large portion of the state of Vermont, in which, you know, I apologize if I stutter and go through this a little bit. This is my very first Zoom presentation. So, Jim, go ahead. You're going to say something. You know, we cover a large area of the state of Vermont, in which I'm not going to read the slide. You all can read that. If there's any questions, by all means, feel free to ask. But, you know, we are very solar friendly. we don't offer a solar program, but we love to have solar because if we can do solar with battery backup, that's just one more add to creating much more resilient Vermont. Innovation and affordability, the Tesla Powerwall, I mean, that is a huge benefit, not only to Green Mountain Power, but to the customers. So think about it from the standpoint during a power outage. We've got customers that have ridden through that have had solar battery backup solar with battery backup, and they've ridden through like a storm for 3 or 4 days, in which during the day they're recharging their batteries, and during the night they're utilizing their power. In which the beauty of the system, in which FEMA, feel free to jump in, is the fact that it's seamless, and quite often we hear from customers that they have to look out the window to realize the power's off because the neighbor's house is dark.
That's right, Dan. You actually get a text on your iPhone, your smartphone, telling you that you're now on the Tesla Powerwall backup. So it's pretty cool. The whole thing is pretty nifty. It's a really neat device, and the 2 programs that GMP has championed here, based on the Resilient Home program, was the BYOD and the Energy Storage Solutions program. So these 2 are kicking off tomorrow, and we're very excited to be part of that.
Promptly at 9 a.m.
Yes, 9 a.m. Remember that, and go to our website and sign up.
So the other thing that we're working on is, you can see the numbers, is reducing our carbon so that we actually, as a utility, can be as carbon free as possible, in which we're actually doing that in a very cost effective manner. And it's actually making investments in the state of Vermont. And when I say that, we have Panton, which is a 4 megawatt solar array with battery backup, in which we've actually utilized that, as well as Stafford Hill, to actually be able to shave peak, which has been very, very incredible. And if you haven't seen it, if you have an opportunity to see the most recent 2019 EAN report, it's very, very informative as to what's going on from the standpoint of carbon and vehicle travel. 44.5% of the carbon emissions in the state of Vermont are driven by transportation, which is kind of mind-blowing. And 27.5% of that is home heating and business heating. So solutions such as heat pump hot water heaters, and weather programs through Efficiency Vermont are huge opportunities to actually reduce things on the homeowner end from the standpoint of fossil fuel consumption. And quite often, it'll make folks much more comfortable in their homes. The other component of that is the vehicles, in which we actually have some very good incentives for electric vehicles, in which I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the next slide, or when I get to that slide, excuse me. So here's an example of King Arthur Bakery over in White River Junction area, in which we actually help them. That's an electric oven that's behind them. They used to have a propane oven. And that's a great prime example of where we can actually help folks reduce fossil fuel and put in electrification, which they actually reduce their overall expenses by about 15% by going to the electric oven. And personal electric vehicles, I personally own a Chevy Volt, in which prior to buying the Chevy Volt, I was somewhat skeptical, in which I would have said, geez, 20 years ago when I was driving a 1965 Mustang with a big V8 and a 4-speed manual transmission, I would have never thought that I'd see the day that I actually would be driving a Chevy Volt. And I absolutely love it. It is incredible to be able to go buy a gas station, not have to stop in and fill up, and the maintenance cost is substantially reduced.
Hey, Dan.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Wayne Goodman. Just out of curiosity, are the Is King Arthur Flour using a lot of solar, or did they just go from propane to electric using grid electric?
They've got some solar, but they don't have enough to the point that they're actually net zero. So they're about, I think they've got about 5% solar covering their electric. But I will tell you that we actually worked with the Aquatic Center over in White River Junction, in which they have enough solar that we eliminated all of the propane fired heaters for the swimming pools and put in electric fired heaters, and they still today don't have an electric bill, and now they don't have a propane bill.
So even just predominantly being grid power, it's still cheaper for them to operate using electric than it is to use propane.
Correct. And one of the things that we found, even with today's current propane prices, in which I personally burn propane as a backup fuel source in my home. And with that being said, I belong to a buying club and I pay around $1.65 a gallon. Well, that's actually the break-even threshold for the crossover between propane and electricity. And if you look at fuel oil, if you're around $2.10, $2.15, that's your break-even point for that. Does that help a little bit?
That helps a lot, actually. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I guess it's mind-blowing, moving to the next slide about the benefits of electric equipment, is every time my youngest son, who's 22, gets in my Chevy Volt to take it for a ride, he's like, "Dad, I don't even know on or off or what's going on here. You can't hear anything." And the beauty of that is it took our dog probably a good 6 months to realize that I was backing in the driveway because he couldn't hear the vehicle. All he could hear was the pebbles turning in our slate driveway, in which eventually he got to the point that he actually now greets me and barks. So it's a totally different mindset and a totally different world. And it's just, from my point of view, very incredible. The beauty also with having an electric vehicle or any of the equipment, whether it's a heat pump or a heat pump hot water heater or any other electric appliance, is the fact that not only is it quiet, cleaner, but you've got a much more stable price. If you think about a few years ago when we had gasoline and diesel fuel that were pushing the $5 mark, I mean, electricity isn't subject to the same fluctuation in pricing. So it is a much more stable resource from the standpoint of price point as well as supply. Commercial and industrial folks, as I said earlier, part of Act 56 is what was referred to as Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Tier 3 specifically focuses on elimination of fossil fuel. And we have actually helped many, many folks reduce their energy consumption and switch over from fossil fuel to electrification. And Jim Hand, if you would like to talk a little bit about Riley Rink, I'd love to have a personal perspective as opposed to having me babble on from the outsider perspective.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so at Riley Rink, I think we started 2 or 3 years ago. We decided we were going to see what we could do to get off fossil fuels. We traditionally had burned 22,000 gallons of propane, and we used about, even after doing some lighting changeovers and stuff, about 350,000 kilowatt hours a year. 2 years ago, we put in heat pumps for all our thermal warm areas. We have a little, I'll call it a kitchen and a viewing area, and of course some office space. Then the next year, we put in heat recovery units in our bathrooms and sand and heat pump hot water heaters, which use CO2 as a refrigerant. And then the third thing we did was we put in what's called a vortex system. We had done something that 2 of my kids had suggested. Rather than having the air source heat pumps use the outside air as our heat source, if you will. We use the air over the ice skating rink. And that air then controlled that air down to roughly 30 to 32 degrees. And we weren't dependent on having to have some backup heat source, say when it got 0 degrees outside. What that did was we went down to, we're going to be a little bit under 3,000 gallons a year for propane. And we knocked off a little over 50,000 kilowatt hours of electricity consumption. And that basically comes from the fact that our compressors that we use to make ice, their load of having to overcome warm air over the ice surface was significantly reduced, as I say, by our thermal heat pumps, bringing the temperature down to about 32 or so over the ice surface. So for us, being a nonprofit, we've had, good carbon savings, obviously, but a considerable amount of money savings. And both Dan and Efficiency Vermont worked with us, both of them, and were very generous in incentives over this whole process. We have just also taken out a loan and have bought a 150 kilowatt system that was in its 6th or 7th year. So we're able to take advantage of a very discounted price on that, and that will now be our fuel source for our electrically run items.
One of the ancillary benefits that we hadn't thought about when we actually started working through the process to put the heat pumps into the rink space is the dehumidification equipment in the rink. We almost eliminated the runtime of that. Is that still true, Jim?
Yes, it is. The only time we've had to use dehumidifiers, which were a propane running system and still are, is during ice make on its first go in October. And that's just because we're fighting, warmer, humid conditions, and that runs for about 4 or 5 days.
Thank you very much, Jim. Greatly appreciate it. Hope you didn't mind me putting you on the spot there.
Well, actually, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to put you both on the spot for just a second longer. On the Sandin system that you were using, Jim.
Yes.
If I remember correctly, I looked into that system a little while ago, and if I remember correctly, there's actually the heating process involves piping water to the outside unit, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Have you guys ever had any experience at all with having
freeze up?
to use, with a freeze up or having to use anything to keep the pipes warm?
No.
Okay.
No. We did have to put in, as you can imagine, because heat pumps take longer to bring temperature to the water as part of the whole process, we were lucky to have enough storage space to put in large storage tanks. And because our locker room, which is our primary use of the hot water for the showerings, we have 4 of them. We can be running them all night long, and then kids or men's leagues or whatever, ladies leagues, are just using the hot water during the daytime. So we would have generally from 11 at night till the boys and girls hockey teams do have a 5:30 practice 2 days a week, but we usually get 7 or 8 hours to replenish, and with 2 twin storage tanks at both set of locker rooms, we had no trouble.
Think about it this way. You could actually utilize that storage in a couple different ways. You can use it to heat the domestic hot water. And you can also use it as a heat sink, for lack of better terms, to be able to utilize it for other avenues when you don't need to use the domestic hot water, which you can actually go with the Sandin system, and you can go up to, I believe it's 5,000 gallon storage. Brad, does that sound correct? That's what I heard the max was.
I don't know off the top of my head, Dan.
Okay. Don't hold me to it, but if I remember correctly, when we were looking at Rutland High School, because they have the same issue with their showers, they actually had 2 1,000 gallon storage tanks there, all from propane fired systems, in which prior to COVID, we were headed down the road of putting in 2 5,000 gallon tanks, and putting in stand-in units so that they had plenty of storage. And the beauty of it is we're going to actually change the location of the storage tanks from in the attic to actually in one of the basement areas that would now allow that heat to actually disperse underneath the floor of that location.
Oh, wow.
So
This is Thomas Hand. I don't know if you guys can hear me as well.
we can hear you, Tom.
Yeah, so one other strategy that I think is very unique with the sand-in units compared to a traditional, HFC type refrigerant in a more standard heat pump water heater, you can take the sand-in tanks and the heat pump up to 175 degrees. So the strategy that we employed, the propane water heaters that we were removing were about 240,000 BTU an hour firing rate. So it's a pretty good sized commercial hot water heater. The sand-in units put out 15,000 BTUs an hour. So that's obviously a very big difference. And so the demand at Riley Rink is very spiky, right? It's not a constant demand throughout the day. You have some, kids skating or adults skating, and then they all leave the ice at the same time. They go to the locker room, they all take showers at the same time. And so your hot water use is in these short little bursts where you're using a tremendous amount of hot water. So you actually need to have a very high firing rate, or you need to have a fair amount of storage. And the thing with going from fossil to electric is it's difficult to have a very high effective firing rate with electric. So the way we overcome that with the sand-ins in this case is we were able to install some additional storage. So we doubled the amount of water storage we had. We went to about 200 gallons. So that's for each set of locker rooms. So approximately 100 gallons for each one. But then we also, because the sand-in units can deliver 175 degree water temperature without a real significant degrading of their COP, we were able to set the water tanks to 100 and I think we chose 165, but they can go to 175. And then we have a temperature reducing valve for the showers, because you really only need 120 or maybe a little bit less at the shower head there. And so that big difference between the tank and what we're delivering increased our effective thermal storage by something on the order of 30 or 40% more storage. And that's something that's unique to the sand-ins, and that in our case sort of allowed us to have the confidence that we would have enough hot water without having to install significantly more storage. Those more energy in a more compact package.
So you were basically using the increased temperature of the sand-in units to basically buy yourself a really good first hour rating.
Exactly. Yep. And that's something that's quite unique to the sand-ins, I believe.
It is very true. So think about this with this slide that I just pulled up regarding Bolton Valley. Okay, you've got a 10,000 gallon diesel fuel tank sitting in the ground. You're a ski area. The weather's not typically conducive to having big trucks come up and dump 10,000 gallons of fuel. You got to keep the area cleaned out and cleared out. And then add to that the fact that, your tank needs to be replaced. So we actually were capable of eliminating 20,000 gallons of diesel fuel at Bolton Valley ski area. And now they're making snow with electric energy, which is pretty impressive. And here's the cool thing is folks that we move forward, you think about the old days in which we actually had rates that we charged people additional amount of money for their peak demand or for their demand in general. We actually have a rate that's called a curtailable load rider, in which in this particular instance, we ask that if we do have a peak demand, that we actually will reach out to Bolton Valley and say, like 24 hours in advance, it looks like tomorrow we're going to have a peak. Can you drop your snowmaking by at least 25%? And if you do that, we're not going to hit them with a demand charge. So we actually are capable of reducing the expense to the customer as well as electrifying them, plus eliminating the fossil fuel. which is a pretty incredible process. And I also throw, I don't know if anyone's aware of Gagne Lumber in Pittsford, Vermont. They used to burn about 30,000 gallons of diesel fuel to operate their sawmill on a regular basis. We actually electrified their sawmill, and Ken is using 100% electricity through a curtailable load rider, in which typically one of the days that we would have curtailment or peak would typically be around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. He normally closes at 3:30. So instead of him having to cut load by 25%, he says in the big picture, he said, I just let the guys go home a half an hour early. And it's saving him a lot of money.
Saving them a lot more than that extra half hour was costing them in labor, that's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Now for the meat of the program, incentives and what we're offering out there. You know, cold climate heat pumps today, there's up to, with the low income adder, you can end up with almost $1,550 of incentive. You know, and this is on the residential side as well as the commercial. Keep in mind, as I said earlier, with the commercial side, I'll give you a good example. Worked on with a apartment building down in Brattleboro, Vermont. They installed 23 one-to-ones in the 21 apartments that were there, and they eliminated a little over 12,000 gallons of propane, and we provided them with an incentive of around $20,000 towards the elimination of the propane and the installation of the heat pumps, in which great transition. The beauty is the heat pumps that they put in, the location they're in, they're not impacted by ambient air temperature or wind as much as they would be if you just put it on the backside of your house, in which that is the only heat source. But they also took it one step further, and they actually provided some good thermal value and insulation in the structure. So with that being said, if there was an instance where it was 15 below or colder, in which they couldn't produce, the heat pumps can't produce enough heat at that point in time to take care of the space, they've recommended to all the tenants to actually overheat the space a little bit, in which their cool down, you know, think about it, it's not going to be 15 below zero for a 24-hour period. Well, let me knock on wood. Hopefully that never happens. Typically it's for 4 or 5 hours, in which if you've got a decent thermal envelope, you really shouldn't be subjected to seeing some substantial temperature swings. Heat pump hot waters, heaters, and keep in mind these rebates are from both Green Mountain Power and Efficiency Vermont. That's another instance where we've joined forces to actually be able to reduce fossil fuel consumption. Recently, Green Mountain Power threw an additional $200 out there towards the installation of a heat pump hot water heater. And there's actually more incentive if you go from a propane fired or oil fired hot water heater to a heat pump. There's more money from Green Mountain Power. Flip side, there's also money from Efficiency Vermont, which I'll let Brad talk about that as well. Centrally ducted air source heat pumps, there's some really decent incentive there as well. And air to water heat pumps as well, depending on size. The one thing I will throw out there, geothermal. If there's an opportunity, you know, anyone in your region that has the ability to possibly do something with geothermal, I mean, you're talking a COP of around 700% more efficient than any type of fossil fuel system. So just keep that in mind, and we can actually provide some really incredible incentive for that. So,
Is there any Dan, is there any possibility with either you guys or Efficiency Vermont to get some sort of a rebate or assistance with replacing a couple of early adopter GE hybrid heat pumps, which are known now to be quite problematic, with something a little more modern and newer?
that's a challenge. Brad? I was afraid I was going to get that response. The unfortunate thing is GE's initial out of the box hybrid heat pump hot water heaters, as you stated, Wayne, they're not very reliable, very difficult to get parts for. And at one point in time, in which I don't know if they still have a service technician in the state of Vermont, they only had one service technician.
Well, they've turned over their service tech to Bradford White, their service coverage to Bradford White. I guess Bradford White bought either bought or inherited the issues, and they're not throwing anybody under the bus, but they're not terribly forthcoming with assistance on these units.
It's unfortunate, and that's sometimes an issue with early adopters, and I'm glad it's not always the case, but we actually did have a few of the GE units in our rental fleet that we replaced as soon as we realized that was only one technician in the state, in which he was the only person that they would allow to touch their heat pump hot water heater. So I feel for you, and I wish there was something we could do. But unfortunately, there isn't anything on the Green Mountain Power's end that we can provide for assistance or rebates for that.
Okay, no worries.
All electric vehicles. Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I want to say about the heat pump water heaters, as I understand, you should still qualify for an incentive if you were going to purchase a new heat pump water heater.
Good point, Brad. You don't have to be replacing an older fossil fuel one, because that's right. There is a point of purchase rebate.
Yeah, it's not a custom project. There's no qualification there other than you're purchasing at a retailer or a wholesaler.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is I could go to FW Web and get something other than a GE, a hybrid electric water heater, and still get some of this rebate.
You should be eligible for all the rebate if you're in GMP and territory, and yeah.
Yeah, Bennington.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll get with you guys offline. I don't want to hog up any more of this time than I already have.
So all electric vehicles, I mean, as I said earlier, 45% of the carbon emissions in the state of Vermont is transportation. And we've got some really good incentives out there for all electric vehicles, plug-in electric vehicles as well. And I would love to have the opportunity for us to actually have a ride and drive event like we did last summer down in Bennington at some point in time, in which we had a really good turnout, in which we had like 5 or 6 different automakers there with their vehicles, in which a lot of folks went for test drives, and I think a lot of folks bought vehicles as well.
We did that in Chester last summer too. We had like an EV cruise in kind of thing. So
electric bikes, they exist out there, and there's rebates for those as well. Residential lawnmowers. I personally own a Newton, which is probably one of the early adopter electric lawnmowers, in which I've had it for about 10 years. I absolutely love it. I take care of the large portion of our yard around our swimming pool and so on, which it's got a bagger on it, and I've never had any issues other than I've had to replace one battery during that period of time.
Hey Dan, I have a question about electric lawnmowers. I have an electric lawnmower too, a push mower I bought about 3 years ago. It's been great. It was before there were incentives, I think, but I still got a really good deal on it. But I use it for kind of like the edges of my lawn and special places. I have an unfortunately large lawn. The ultimate solution would be to have a smaller lawn. But in the meantime, I have a riding gas mower, and you know, it would be awesome if there were some enhanced incentives for the riding electric mowers, because there's quite a few of them coming on the market now.
There is some out there, and there's commercial e-mowers, which I'm trying to remember the name of the company, and which I'll get that information for you when Brad goes through his presentation. But there actually is a company in Vermont that's distributing electric commercial zero-turn mowers.
Green Machine.
I mean,
Green Machine.
those,
Yes, thank you, Jim.
that incentive I see there for the commercial e-mower, I mean, there's quite a few, decent sized riding lawnmowers, electric lawnmowers on the market. I didn't, the Green Mountain Power site doesn't have any incentives listed for that, so I assume that's if you're a commercial business, you could get an incentive for one of those, but not if you're a residential property owner?
It's all about the purchase. So if you actually purchased one of the green machines, I'm quite confident, Jim, that you would actually receive the $2,500 incentive.
Oh,
And if you're at all interested, I would love to have everyone's contact information. It sounds like mid-July. They'll actually be doing a demo down at Bennington College to the Bennington College grounds crew
Oh, really?
oh,
of the
good, that's next
E-Mower,
door. I could walk over and watch.
of the E-Mower, the green machine, the steel lawnmower, which the steel lawnmower is electric, plus it also, you can get a chainsaw, line trimmer, and hedge trimmer, which all use the same battery,
Even better.
which is pretty cool. The other thing I want to throw out there with the electric vehicles, we actually offer a free home charger when you purchase a new or used electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle.
Is that a level 2 charger? I assume?
220, yes.
Oh, can I ask something about the incentives? Last week, we bought a Subaru plug-in hybrid what's it called? Trek. And I asked about incentives. The only thing they said, oh, Green Mountain Power, you can get a charger or but that one is the regular plug-in, of course, is included with the car. And I had heard, they didn't tell me, but I think I had heard there's a $4,500 federal, $4,500 off your federal income tax at the end of the year. But I see on the screen, there's a $1,000 rebate from Green Mountain Power. They didn't tell us that. Do these dealers know? Or are we supposed to, or is the public supposed to just know where to go?
Well, we've reached out to all the dealers that we can think of, and did you buy it in the state of Vermont?
Subaru in Rutland.
Oh, you bought it, okay, in Kinney's.
Well, they keep changing names. I don't know what it's called. I mean, it began with an M on some piece of paper we had to sign. But
Okay. So Nancy, I will follow up with them, and I will also have someone follow up with you as well.
okay.
Dan, can I just ask? Oh, sorry, Nancy.
No, go ahead. No matter.
Hi, Nancy. I'm not sure if you said this and I missed it, but can you explain why the plug-in EV, it says 6,500 and the all-electric is only 2,500, what that difference is?
I think a large portion of that is, how about if I answer this honestly? I don't know, Madison, but I will look when Brad's providing his presentation and give you a real answer, because I've got a gut sense, but I'd like to give you the correct answer.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Hey, Madison.
The other thing is electric forklifts. I mean, there's a lot of forklifts out there, warehouses and so on that, today they may be using propane-fired forklifts, and we've got some really good incentives for electric forklifts as well. Now, we already talked about the rink. Over on the left-hand side of the screen, that's actually a coffee roaster down in Brattleboro, Vermont, in which they had a propane-fired process for heating the beans to roast them, and now they actually have an electric-fired process, which is pretty incredible. Saved them a lot of energy and also gave them some new space inside the facility.
No venting either.
You got it. The other cool thing that we'll be launching early next week is Share Vermont, which is an opportunity for folks to help those that are having some hard times making ends meet these days. Any rate 6 customer who is in arrears with Green Mountain Power, if someone wants to donate their excess solar or a portion of their excess solar, they can actually do that and we'll apply it to their bill. The unfortunate thing is we can't allow you to just pick who you wanted to share it with. It's just a matter of what portion of your production you would like to share with them. and it's specifically rate 6, which would be small commercial businesses.
Okay, Josh.
I think it's a really neat idea, and I hope the program takes off because there's a lot of folks, those folks that I've had a lot of conversations with, especially restaurants, in which, you know, we've done some pretty interesting things and done some virtual walkthroughs with many restaurants in Rutland, Bennington, Windham, and Windsor County to help them reduce their electric consumption so they can actually hopefully see the light at the end of the tunnel. But this is another opportunity to help them above and beyond the CARES Act and other things.
Dan, this is Thomas Hand. I have a question on that.
Yes.
So I have a number of solar projects that I own, and we sell credits to a number of businesses. Many of those businesses are obviously have been shut down for a significant portion of the spring and are using a lot less power. Has Green Mountain Power considered allowing additional changes, like number of times you can change the allocation, essentially opening up those rules a little bit? Because as you probably know, you're, as the owner of a PV system, you're limited to how often you can change who the power is going to. Have you guys considered opening up those rules to help some of these businesses?
We haven't, and this was actually a means of creating a solution somewhat similar to that without all of the paperwork and the challenges, because it's not a simple process to just open that up, Thomas.
What do you mean it's not simple?
To change all of the accounting information, it's not real simple.
Well, I guess maybe we're talking about different things. When I change the allocation, I send an email to my contact at Green Mountain Power, and he responds typically that day and says, and all I provide is the new account number. And he says, yep, all set, done. So what I'm talking about is you guys limit how many times we can do that per year. And so right now we've got customers who can't use credits, and we don't want to go changing the allocation because we may not be able to change it back per the GMP rules.
Let me ask that question, Thomas.
Because right now, as I understand this program, I would have to just forego, we'd have to just donate it all, right? We get no compensation for the excess power.
Correct. It is 100% donation.
Yeah.
I have a question going back to the Powerwall offer from with Green Mountain Power and whatever's beginning at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Originally, I had signed up with BEMA some time back. I'm on some kind of waiting list for acquiring a new Powerwall. We have since moved and are looking, or have tried to plan to bring our Powerwall battery with us because of the lack of availability of Powerwalls at such a reasonable price as we got it originally through Green Mountain Power. My question is, should I drop plans to move the Powerwall battery from our old residence to our new one and just enlist in this new program?
That's entirely your decision, and I would strongly suggest that you look at
Tesla's charging $2,500 to move the battery without any of the changes, physical changes that may be necessary, and without the survey costs, the survey of the site to locate the battery. So we're looking at least $3,000 just to move the battery.
And the new program, if you go with the energy storage solution from Green Mountain Power, you're looking at $55 a month. And BEMA, that's with the Tesla. And
yes.
BEMA, I don't know if you want to chime in at all.
Yeah, I think I think Dan's right. If you can leave the units where they are, it's up to you.
Yeah, if the new buyer is willing to carry them, and I imagine he would be, but I told him we wanted to take them because we couldn't get $55 a month means how much to purchase the battery then?
it would be $5,500 an upfront payment or $5 a month for 10 years. Again, that's a lease program. And
Yep.
if you have to buy them outright, GMP offers an incentive of $850 a kilowatt, bumped up to $950 in some locations. So if you get 2 units, that would be around $8,500 incentive. So for 2 units. And so the installed cost of 2 units is about $18,000. Knock off $8,500 from that, and you can get two new units installed at your home for about $9,500 or so.
Right. Okay. So in a way, we really have previously only used enough electricity to justify one power wall, but if we were to move, it actually would cost more, I mean, less than it would be to purchase a new one, even with the incentives.
So right now we have just one power wall.
Yes, that's all we've needed. We'll
Okay,
need
you
more.
get just one power wall. So that means all the numbers would be half, which means that you end up having to pay about $4,500 or so for a new single power wall.
Right. Okay. Or pay 2,500 to move our old one.
That, yeah, I'm not sure how that would be possible to do with, and that's something I had to work with GMP on.
Yes, it's Tesla apparently handles it.
Yes, Tesla does.
Right.
Okay, thank you. If I need any further information, I'll contact EMA directly. Thank you very much. I had no idea that this other program was going on.
Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. You ready?
Yep. You don't have much time yet.
It's the first 500 customers.
Oh, for first 500 customers statewide.
Correct. Well, in Green Mountain Power Service Territory, yes.
Right. Thank you.
So what you do is you'd go to our website, click on the link on the home page, and you'll go to the ESS or the BYOD pages and enter your name and your account number there, and you'll be registered for either of those two programs. ESS is the lease program. Again, that's $55 a month for 10 years. And the BYOD is the purchase program. And with that, you get $8,500 for 2 power walls or about $4,250 for 1 unit.
Thank you.
So I don't know how much time you had actually allocated for me, Allison, but I think I probably consumed a lot more than I anticipated. And Brad, thank you for your patience. And I thank everyone for your questions as well as your assistance, Jim, Bima. Thank you very much. And if you want to jot down the email address of Business Innovation at greenmountainpower.com, that actually goes to all of us that are listed there. And the reason why we decided, instead of throwing our individual emails out there, is if one of us are on vacation or something else is going on, someone else will certainly pick up the ball and respond back to you in a reasonable period of time. And also, it may be a customer that has 3 entities, one in Bennington County, one in Addison County, and one in Chittenden County, in which we want to make certain that if they want to deal with one person, that they can deal with the same person. Any other questions at this point in time? I've got to get a few answers while Brad's providing his presentation, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks so
Thanks,
much,
Dan.
Dan. I appreciate it. So, let's see. Brad, are you?
Yep.
I don't see your screen anymore.
Oh,
Oh,
well,
there
I
you
haven't shared
are.
it. Yeah. You ready? You ready for me?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank
Okay.
you.
Let's find it here. Oh. Give me a second here. Oh. What I don't see is where my screen went, and I have it open. This is the weird part. It's almost like I can't see all my screens.
Oh,
Let me try this a different way. Because this had been working. Try this. Well, my apologies, everybody. Can you tell this is my first presentation at a Zoom meeting?
No pressure. You're okay.
Give me 1 second here. I'm wondering if I just have too many screens open.
Do, 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 do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So can you all see this now?
Yes.
Yay.
Okay. Yay. We're making progress today. So my name is Brad Long. I work with Efficiency Vermont. I've been with the organization about 4 years. As Dan had mentioned, he and I have worked together before in Rutland City. That's the city I worked in last year. I am a community engagement manager, and my job is to work with communities throughout the state, primarily energy burdened communities. And previous to that, I worked in the commercial and industrial sector for Efficiency Vermont. So my presentation today will try to encompass a little bit about Efficiency Vermont on a broad scale, but also drill into some of our responses to the COVID crisis, and particularly the economic impact that's having on Vermonters, both businesses and residences. If you have any questions, just holler and I'll do my best to answer, okay? So we are a energy efficiency utility. As I mentioned earlier, there are 3 utilities in the state. There's Vermont Gas, there's Green Mountain Power, and there's Efficiency Vermont. And we are the only efficiency utility in the entire state. So we work with all rate payers in the entire state. So if you pay into a utility, an electric utility, Efficiency Vermont is there to serve you. We ultimately reduce the cost of energy for all Vermonters with our programs, and we help families, businesses, and institutions make better use of the energy that they are using. We provide some direct support through incentives, technical training, and technical advice, consultative advice. We are managing some market transformation through supply chain engagement, and we have a partnership with energy service providers throughout the state. So this is a quick illustration of how Efficiency Vermont is helping different sectors of the state. The illustration here is 1 gallon of milk. So on the farm, we're helping the farmers deliver more efficient lights and barn fans. In the processing plant, Efficiency Vermont is supporting equipment upgrades and process improvements. In the grocery store, Efficiency Vermont is helping to add refrigeration controls, lighting in the stores also. And in the family kitchen, we help provide a more efficient refrigerator. So that 1 gallon of milk, which is touching different sectors of our economy, Efficiency Vermont is trying to help all portions of that economy. And according to our data, over the last 20 years, we would be using about 16% more electricity today than we did in the year 2000. So we like to think that every dollar we invest in efficiency yields about $2 in customer savings. And investments that Vermonters have made in efficiency will save us over $2.4 billion. And together we will reduce over 11 million metric tons of CO2e. It's like removing all of Vermont's cars from the roads for 4 years. So that's pretty impressive. That's fun. So just to drill into the customers a little bit here, we have a farm in the top left-hand corner. We have in the bottom left-hand corner a theater in Rutland. We have a manufacturer in the top right-hand corner, so commercial and industrial. And we have a homeowner in the bottom right-hand corner. So basically everybody in the state can participate in our programs, and everybody in the state can benefit from our services. So this next section here, where I'm going to step off and get into a little bit more of the response from the current economic environment as it is, and what Efficiency Vermont is trying to do to help Vermonters recover from the the COVID-19 crisis and the economic fallout. We certainly do know that investing in energy efficiency will help the average Vermonter because your cost of operation will be less. We know that people will be more comfortable, but it also helps create opportunities for our local businesses, whether that's a supply chain business like a retailer or a wholesaler, a contractor, or a general laborer. These programs are designed to have a wide impact on the economy and help everybody prosper and get back through this recovery a little bit more seamlessly. So a couple of things here just to highlight. Let me get this out of my way. Okay, so we have a bunch of new offers that are coming out right now. Some are out now, some are coming out shortly. And I want to say that with all offers that are noted here for Efficiency Vermont and some that are combined with Green Mountain Power, it is always imperative that you check the web each respective utility or give us a call to ask if the offers have changed or if there's any other differences or alterations to the offers. Right now, we have a loan program for both businesses and homeowners. Our program is our home energy loan, and this is a low interest loan with as low as 0% interest for homeowners. And the loan can be structured so that you can pay back over 10 years. The loan is designed to help you make energy investments in your home. And right now we have a special offer where Efficiency Vermont will cover the first 6 months of payments or up to $900 in that home energy loan. That offer goes through August 31st. It's noteworthy. I just want you to remember that number, $900, because I'm going to bring that back around later when we talk a little bit about heat pumps as an example. From the business side, the business energy loan that we have available right now has rates as low as 3.5% to 5% with zero down and zero closing costs. And it's offering up to 4 months of deferred payment for business owners. So it's a nice opportunity for business owners to make an investment and not have to pay for it right away. They have a couple of months, and the hope is that the economy will begin to continue to recover and add a little, that 4-month deferment adds a little cushion for folks. Our Home Performance with Energy Star program, this is our home weatherization program. This program is going to see a strong increase in incentives. And I want to rewind just a little bit. At the beginning of last year, our Home Performance with Energy Star program offered up to $2,000 in incentives for home weatherization for all Vermonters. About partway through the year, we increased that incentive up to $4,000 for moderate income Vermonters. I can't say more right now, but I will allow that. You will see that trend increase here with some of these changes that will be coming. And I will note that if you've ever thought about doing any home weatherization, this window that's going to be opening is going to be the strongest opportunity that Efficiency Vermont has ever offered. And while coupling that with a 0% interest home energy loan, one that is the first $900 paid for by Efficiency Vermont, the incentive begins to almost multiply. It becomes a very powerful proposition. So keep an eye out for a press release from Efficiency Vermont about our Home Performance with Energy Star program and the new weatherization opportunities available to Vermonters. That's pretty big news. I wish I could tell you all what the numbers are, but I can't right now. We are offering between $20 and $50 for pickup of old but working select appliances. So old window unit air conditioners, room dehumidifiers, and refrigerators. We will pick them up at no charge for all Vermonters. We will recycle them at no charge for all Vermonters. And if they work, we'll give you between $20 and $50 back. It's $20 for each of the 2 smaller appliances and up to $50 back for a working refrigerator. That offer expires August 31st as well. We are also going to be offering $50 for efficient appliances that support healthy homes for low and moderate income customers. That will also expire on August 31st. So we have a number of different incentives. Some are changing, some are increasing, some are newer. And while coupled with the aggressive home energy loan and business energy loan, the idea here is to really encourage Vermonters to make some smart investments in their homes or businesses and have some capacity to do that. So the ductless heat pump systems, Dan had spoken about this a little bit earlier here, and depending upon the utility, some of this varies. If you're in Green Mountain Power territory, there's up to a combined $1,500 back for a ductless heat pump system. So if you were going to get a $4,000 heat pump system and you took out a home energy loan, there's a $1,500 incentive, which brings your cost down to $2,500, and Efficiency Vermont can make the first 6 payments, or up to $900. Your cost for a ductless heat pump system in your home has never been lower. There's never been an easier point of entry for a ductless heat pump system in a home. And again, this is a combined incentive from both Efficiency Vermont and Green Mountain Power. Heat pump water heaters, as Dan mentioned, there's a combined up to $800 back. I will note a really great thing about a heat pump water heater is it also is a dehumidifier. So if you put it in a basement that happens to be a little damp or dank, the heat pump water heater will dehumidify that space and help dry it out. For efficient wood and pellet stoves, there's up to $1,000 back, depending upon your electric utility. Again, that's a combined incentive. And as Dan mentioned, your electric utility may have incentives for electric vehicles, e-bikes, electric mowers, and more. And Dan, you did a great job bringing us up to speed on that, so thank you. I do want to stress one more time. Some of these incentives are going to expire as soon as August 31st. So make sure you check with Green Mountain Power and Efficiency Vermont's websites for details before you go ahead and make those purchases.
Hey, Brad.
Yes.
What about, I see you're saying ductless heat pump systems. What about, for example, if I wanted to install something like a Mitsubishi City Multi or something similar, where I was using ceiling cassettes and maybe ducting 2 different rooms? Does that still come in under the ductless heat pump system category or not? Because it's still the same basic unit on the HVAC side.
Yeah.
Just moving the air.
Yeah, the mechanical side sounds the same. You're just talking about a ducting system. Wayne, I don't know. I'd have to get an answer for you. Let me jot a note down here.
Because we're just now in the process of closing on a house that my wife and I are having some discussions as to whether we want. I have no issue with mini splits that use ceiling cassettes. Neither of us particularly likes the wall mounted ones. And the issue I have is if I'm going to put ceiling cassettes in, I don't want to have 5 or 6 head mini split where I have a different ceiling cassette in every room. And I was thinking that if I put in maybe 2 units for 2 different zones and ducted it to the room so that I get more even heat, that was the direction I was thinking of going in. So if this $1,500 back would encompass that style of the system, I'd be interested.
Yeah, I'm sorry I don't have the answer for you. I was taking a look at some of the other incentives on our website for heat pumps. There are other incentives for other styles of heat pumps, but I'd have to take a look into this one for you, Wayne. I just don't have the answer, and I'm sorry.
That's all right. Just if you would look into it and let me know.
I almost think that would fit into the centrally ducted system.
Yeah,
which it's
kind of what I was thinking too, Dan, but I didn't want to say anything I'd have to retract later.
Well,
the only reason I even brought it up is that you're right. A centrally ducted system, it sort of feels that way, but from the perspective of how the heat transfer takes place, it's still a mini split.
Yeah.
So that's why I was curious.
I think it's a good question. I'm going to move to the next slide. If nobody has questions for this particular slide, we're good here.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome. I do want to say one other thing. When it comes to the efficient wood and pellet stoves, part of that incentive is, just so there's some transparency, part of that incentive incorporates a removal and recycling of the old stove. One of the challenges that we've seen through the years with just about every appliance, particularly refrigerators and sometimes stoves, is that people pull the old ones out and the refrigerator goes to the garage. Yeah, so we end up with a high efficiency refrigerator inside the house, and we end up with the low efficiency refrigerator outside the house. So we're not actually meeting our goals there.
Beer fridge.
Yeah, the beer fridge, right? Yeah, the beer fridge, or the Thanksgiving Day fridge, whatever. You know, it's full of stuff, and it's more inefficient, and now it's in an unconditioned space, which can be favorable to it in some seasons, and certainly unfavorable to it in other seasons. So we will be offering some new and stronger offers for renters and landlords. This is coming soon. The big difference here is for the renters. We're going to see some offers for renters that are new and a bit unprecedented for us, and it helps renters regain a little bit more control over their spending on utility costs. But also for landlords. Landlords should be encouraged to contact Efficiency Vermont if they have a multi-family housing unit. We do work with state weatherization agencies, and we work with the landlords through financing programs, and like I said, through the weatherization agency and through some of our other programs to basically make these homes more comfortable through weatherization, more resilient to weather events through weatherization, but also more efficient, not only through that weatherization, but also through the appliances in the homes. We can impact everything from water usage with low flow shower heads and sink aerators, to high efficiency appliances, to alternative heating systems, and entire building comprehensive weatherization. We are also offering for multifamily housing units free assessments. I've done a number of these where myself and an engineer will come visit a multifamily house, and we will walk through that property with the owner, and we'll take a look at the outside of the building, the basement, the attic, and usually one or two of the apartments. And from there, we can make references and referrals to our weatherization partners and our internal programs and financing programs for people. So that is an ongoing piece that is available now. So I would encourage landlords to be in touch with us, and we can help them out. But as I'm noting here, we will have some new offers for renters and landlords coming very soon. So that's going to be pretty exciting. You know, it tends to be that folks renting in multifamily housing units are you know, on the more challenged end of the economic spectrum. And if we can help those folks be more comfortable, we can help improve their indoor environment from a health standpoint, whether that's air quality, dust, pests, or simply just generalized comfort. It can offer a large and long-ranging impact for folks. So that's a big one. I'd like to talk about that one a bit, because it's one that makes me feel good when we're out there and we can actually help one of those homes come up to a more modern standard.
Call me when you're ready.
So just some resources here for everybody. I want to point out to the marketplace at the bottom here, marketplace.efficiencyvermont.com. The marketplace is a really great opportunity for folks to take a look at the different appliances and some of the technologies that are available to everybody. And it's a place where I would direct people if they were looking at buying something new for their home or their business. The YouTube and the efficiency.com tips and tools. Tips and tools has everything from a quick video from one of our engineers on how to insulate and air seal an attic or a basement, to just doing a bulkhead door, to how to inspect your windows. So the tips and tools is a great spot for people to jump off from if they want to begin learning about some of the technologies or some of the practical applications as it refers to efficiency or weatherization, or simply air sealing a house or insulating a basement or an attic. It's a great resource for people. So this is my contact information. It's also my last slide. My telephone number there is, that's my direct line, and then our corporate line is the 888-921-5990. If anybody ever has any questions about any of our programs, the 888-921-5990 is our Crackerjack customer service team. These folks know just about everything that we are doing. They can help anybody navigate any of our incentives, any of the financial offers, and help with coordinating with any of the other utilities in their area. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for now and see if anybody has any questions, and just, I guess we can continue with discussion.
Thanks so much, Brad. That was
Sure.
great.
You're welcome. No questions from anybody, huh?
I do have one, and actually it kind of applies to both sides because it applies to electric vehicles and the incentive programs in general. Certainly when you set out the incentive programs, there were some expectations about what level of uptake you could get from those programs. What has been your experience relative to your original expectations or estimates of what kind of penetration you'd get with these incentive programs compared to what you've actually seen so far? Part two of the question would be, has there been any particular thing, any particular event within the real world that has influenced the incentives over time?
Well, I'll start with your second question there, and then Dan, certainly feel free to jump in. The increase in our incentives that you'll see through the latter half of 2020 are a direct result of the economic impact of COVID-19. As businesses have closed down or reduced hours and profit margins have gotten skinnier, our incentives and our programs are designed to help bridge some of that gap a little bit for people, whether it's homeowner or a business, particularly the loan-based programs. You know, the home energy loan is just, I did it for my house. I ended up putting about $7,000 into my house. I pay $50 a month. I can tell you just from the weatherization I did in my house and some of the other things I did, I installed carbon monoxide and smoke detectors in here. I hooked up a ventilation fan for my range. We put a new bathroom fan in with a motion sensor on it. It's a variable speed fan. It's much more effective than the previous one. And I ended up weatherizing my entire crawl space floor, band joist, and my attic. And the comfort level is tremendous. But what's really cool is it's costing me $51 a month. And that's before we had these the increase of incentives. That's before we had the more specialized loan that can make payments for up to 6 months. So just to kind of answer that question in a nutshell, Bruce, the increased incentives and the more aggressive loan programs are aimed at helping Vermonters bridge this gap, this tough time. Your first question spoke to uptake of programs, incentive programs, consultative programs, whatever it may be. Efficiency Vermont has a team that focuses on communities. We have a team that focuses on small, medium businesses. We have a team that focuses on large commercial industrial customers, and we have a team that focuses on supply chain. And together, what our attempt is to educate and encourage people to uptake these programs. I can tell you that as a targeted community manager, the goal is to get into these communities, these energy burden communities, and really make sure that people understand these programs are out there, these incentives are out there, and encourage uptake in those incentives. I don't have all of the data off the top of my head, but I will tell you that I know that when we operate in a targeted community, we do see an uptake in those incentives. It's generally not immediate. You know, if you take something like a home weatherization project, that can be a really big, daunting project for people. That's not a replacement of a refrigerator. That's a lot of education. There's a lot of different contractors you may get quotes from. So that can be a multi-year process. That being the case, I like to think that sometimes our first incentives, our smaller incentives, are planting seeds, and they're helping people get going in what could be a larger scale process for them. Our commercial and industrial and small medium business account managers work very closely with their accounts, very deep personal relationships. We begin to understand how the business functions, how it operates, what the challenges and obstacles are. And the role of our account managers is to help those businesses find ways to reduce their costs. And sometimes it's something, you know, I remember working in commercial industrial, we would do something called a sleeping plant tour. And what we do is we go into an industrial or commercial site when it's closed. And we'd walk around, we'd look at their base load, and we'd try to make a determination of what is using all this power when the plant is turned off. And sometimes, you know, you walk through with a maintenance person, you say, well, that machine over there is on, why is it on? And they say, well, we don't know. Well, how come? Well, nobody told us to turn it off. So when we are able to work with a customer and when there is an aptitude to work with a customer, we definitely see an uptake in those incentive programs. We've seen some really big success stories with some large customers. I don't want to name any of them right now, but we've seen some really, really great stuff happen out there when it comes to incentives. Dan, do you want to add anything to that?
The only thing I want to add to it, Brad, is the fact that our incentives, our increased incentives, are driven 100% by trying to stimulate the economy and also turn folks around, hopefully in a positive direction, and give them an opportunity to take full advantage of any dollars that are out there. The one thing I will say from the standpoint of uptick, you know, when we first started the plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, the plug-in vehicle rebates, we didn't think it was going to take off that fast. We were actually turning checks around in the same week. And right now, we're out there 4 to 6 weeks to provide checks back to folks. So, I mean, the uptick has been substantially greater than we originally anticipated, which is a good thing. And, you know, I really can't say enough about it, in which apparently someone's coming to my house right now because both my dogs are barking. So I'm going to mute for a moment.
Okay. Well, thank you both for your comments. That's just what I was, the information I wanted.
Sure. It's Jim from Scotland.
Everybody has successfully identified my background. Yes. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And I know that I was going to talk a little bit about upcoming events through the Bennington County Regional Commission. Actually, I don't really have a lot specifically scheduled right now. I think some of the Energy Committee folks have received some information on the window dressers meeting at the end of June. If you have any questions about that, you can get in touch with me. But we'll be scheduling another webinar or workshop, or maybe even someday an actual in-person workshop. But I just wanted to say thank you and turn it back over if anybody else has any questions or any final thoughts. And I guess
I appreciate the this whole process. I mean, I do this for my work as well. And the interesting thing is when we do it for work, there are 85 or 90 people on. So you're encouraged to mute your microphone and turn off your camera. So it's a little different to actually be seeing the faces of the people who are speaking. But this was easily one of the best meetings that we've had in a long time. I learned a whole lot about what can happen and what's available out there. And I'm looking forward to the additional information that I hope to be receiving from both of our presenters, to whom I say thank you very much and great job.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity, and I'm glad it was well taken. And at any point in time, if you have any further questions, by all means, feel free to reach out. Allison, when you send this out, will you send everyone's email addresses so that we can reach out actually if need be?
Yeah, I
I'm
can do that.
still waiting for a response regarding the Subaru Crosstrek.
Sure. Yeah. So I always use the blind carbon copy, but I'll keep everyone's emails in there, so it might be kind of big, but I can do that so everyone can have everyone's contact information. And I
Well,
hope
thank
the
you.
recording went well. This is my first time recording, and I don't even know where it's saving, but I'll try and find it after.
Well, you had 2 first-time presenters and 1 first-time recorder. I think we all did pretty good.
You did great. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come on here. Thank you so much.
And thank you for the invitation.
Welcome.
It was
Thank
really
you very
nice to be able
much.
to speak with people.
And I hope everyone has a great evening and stay safe and healthy.
Hey, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right back at you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.